So today I have the legendary Jon Russo from B2B Fusion, who is a three-time global CMO in successful public and private SaaS companies in Silicon Valley, New York City, and Luxembourg. And today he leads B2B Fusion, an agency that's designed to optimize marketing technologies and business processes that drive revenue growth, with an expertise in revenue conversion optimization and over 100 account-based strategies. Jon, I'm so excited to have you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, super excited to be here, Janelle. And legendary is a strong word, legendary in my own mind, maybe, but no, super excited to be here and share kind of what we've been seeing trend-wise in the market.
Yeah, I think you're legendary for what it's worth.
Thank you.
And just a brief introduction for everybody else as well. B2B Fusion is actually a client of Elevate Growth. That's how Jon and I met. And I think we partnered really well together, kind of with my demand gen background, right? And your team that's really operationally savvy. And you know that I'm not. So I think we found a way to really work together. And I really appreciate that and appreciate your continued partnership. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about our chat today, because you recently wrote an article, like a few days ago or a week ago, that is pretty much questioning whether the days of a Salesforce Marketing Qualified Lead are over. And it's practically blown up. You've got media agencies calling you, you've got clients calling you. And so today I have the pleasure of having you on here for you to explain your reasoning for such a conversation sparking article, I should say.
Yeah, it's a great question and a great debate, right? Of whether or not the MQL is quote unquote dead. And it really came out as a result of several clients asking us for our point of view of what's happening to the lead and leads object in Salesforce. Operationally, those don't really drive revenue, but they facilitate the revenue. So it's a pretty important question. I think you'll also find that there's a couple other firms out there that are saying, kill the lead and kill the leads object altogether. I think they're partially right. And that's what my article dives into, is that kind of the pros and cons and the trade-off. I don't think it's as black and white as they make it out to be. And so that's what the article is about.
Yeah, I appreciate that summary. For those of you who haven't read it yet, I'll actually find a way to link it on like the podcast description or however we can get that to you. But make sure you go check that out, take it a read, and then come back here and listen to it, because we're going to be expanding a little bit further on the reasonings behind that and so forth. So diving into your content, Jon, for situations where it does make sense to keep a lead-based approach, because you mentioned in your article that it could be situational, right? You kind of outlined the pros and the cons for either staying with a lead based approach or switching to a contact and opportunities approach, right? Because Salesforce manages their data that way. For those who right now are on a lead-based approach, you guys actually created a solution, right? What is that called? Can you walk me through how you guys do that?
Yeah. So you let me unpack a couple of those questions there that you were asking about the use cases of the leads-based approach, and then kind of what does that look like to a client? And it really stems from reporting. So the CMS Newswire article that I just wrote, which you could Google and we'll link it down below, really is on the premise that a company might already have a leads-based approach on their reporting side. And what I noticed when I was a CMO many years ago, when I had black hair, that one of the challenges was trying to get my board and other non-marketing members working toward the measurement goals that we put in place. And so by having the leads model already there, it's been a tried, tested, and true model for over a decade now. Back when I used to go to, I was one of SiriusDecision's first clients back in the Bay Area many, many years ago. I think it was early 2000s. Might even be late 90s. That's how early it was as part of that. And I adopted that model early on. And like a lot of CMO peers, I think the challenge is once you have that model, it's very difficult to all of a sudden throw out the baby in the bathwater and then just say, hey, we're going to transition to accounts, contacts, and opportunities. So there are use cases, which we'll get into in a few moments, that do fit into that. But for those companies that are already measuring leads, it does make sense And if you're moving toward an account-based motion, to have both models. And we figured out a way to kind of do both and report on both. The other use case that comes into, if you have product-led growth, if you have a target market that's not really narrow or not really well defined, and I'll contrast that in a moment to what a really well defined target market is. But if your audience is very broad, you may want to keep the leads object. The other thing that we've noticed is, depending on your technical stack, and unfortunately, there's not a one size fits all, contrary to popular belief that is being pushed out there right now, there's not necessarily a one size fits all model, because it's really dependent on your technology stack, how you've implemented that technology stack, and your business strategy.
Yeah.
So the business strategy, meaning product-led growth, or you might have multiple people in a buying committee and you want to bubble that up to the account level and really engage at the account stage level. It's a different way of thinking within Salesforce, but there's ways that you can bring those leads and contacts along in a single journey, and report out on it. And I just feel like that might have been overlooked by perhaps recently by some of the best practice firms that are out there. So let me pause there. Did I answer all your questions, or what did I miss there? Because you had a couple
I think
questions
so.
there.
Yeah, no, if we could just transition to everything you just said to now how B2B Fusion has come to that solution. You guys coined a term called the unified funnel. What is that? What does that mean? What do you guys do with it?
Yeah, great question. So going back to the evolution of measurement, there was a best practice firm that got it right. In October 2019, Topo published something called the dual funnel, where they had a lead-based motion, an account-based motion. It was a very simple block diagram and described what people should be measuring, but they never got into the how. So we basically operationalized the Topo, which is now Gartner funnel, from 2019. And there's really been, to my knowledge, not anything published about how to operationalize that. It takes a body of work to get there, to operationalize it. You have to have the right data structures, but it's all doable work natively in Salesforce. So you get one single report and one dashboard in Salesforce that takes any motion, a lead motion, a partner motion, a product-led growth motion, an account motion, and we drop it into one funnel. And why that's important, Janelle, is we then have the ability to track the volume and velocity by channel, which is a really important business metric for people to follow. And the goal is to get everybody using one funnel. If you ask the question, and I do these weekly polls on LinkedIn, you may have seen, I've asked the question, how many funnels do people have? And on average, they have 2 or more funnels that they're reporting at executive levels.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're an executive, you start seeing these multiple funnels, you start questioning, well, what do I look at? Do I look at the marketing funnel? Do I look at the sales funnel? That's why we've unified it into one view and using native technology as opposed to investing in more technology.
Yeah, and I've actually seen that firsthand when I was in-house as well. Like marketing had one set of data and sales had another. And it's not only that, it's 2 different dashboards too. We found that you have different numbers. And so it's like, who's right? Who's like, what are we caring about? And then they never actually were like integrated. They never actually made sense together. So I thought it was a really phenomenal solution that you guys offer to your clients, which is why I've called you legendary, and I'm excited to have you here today. Are you willing to walk me through, or walk the audience through more, how B2B Fusion technically goes through augmenting that tech stack for your clients?
Yeah, great question on the tech stack. And let me just add one other thing to what you just said, and I'll get to the tech stack. The other challenge that we see is exactly what you said about the different types of numbers there in terms of reporting. The manual effort that marketing operations has to go through in preparation for a board or an executive meeting to answer simple questions. We've seen people working on the weekends, working late at night. There's no need to be doing any of that. But in lieu of that, in lieu of having that unified funnel, a lot of people are having to do that. There's a hell of a lot of manual effort. And I feel like that's a big blind spot for CMOs. We've even seen that in a couple of our clients where they don't realize the people that are doing the work meaning the marketing operations or demand gen team, they're having to really burn the candle to make all the numbers foot up with one another, which was another driver to that unified funnel. Now,
Yeah.
let me answer your question. That was a long-winded pause to get to your answer about the tech stack. Your mileage can vary, and typically there are pretty common components. Common components meaning most companies have a marketing automation system, and the majority that we deal with, Marketo, HubSpot, and Pardot, are really kind of the key areas. Increasingly, we're seeing Marketo in the market right now expanding pretty aggressively, and a little bit Pardot and a little bit of HubSpot. Eloqua, we don't really run across at all. I'm not sure what's happening there with Oracle, but and then of course Salesforce in the middle of the CRM. And then your mileage can vary depending on the type of company and the complexity. So we will help guide companies on the decisions that they have to make. And they are really responsible for making the decisions for an account-based platform. In many cases, we're picking up those account-based platforms after they've been purchased and after they realize that they're not getting the right reporting or the right ROI out of the tool. And so that platform can be a variety of different flavors, as long as the flavor can produce the MQA or 6QA or marketing qualified account. And that would be a Triblio, a Demandbase, a 6sense, a Tech Target. There are probably others out there, but those are the main platforms that we typically run across. And then a dark horse in all of this, which I wouldn't discount at all, is the value of a company like Lean Data, for example, where you can do not only sophisticated routing, but you could do lead to account matching. And you could do a lot of configuration in Lean Data that in a lot of companies that are sensitive to their Salesforce and their Salesforce instance, it just gives you another set of options that are a little bit easier to maneuver and scale in. So Lean Data is like a Swiss Army knife in terms of capabilities. Those are typically the types, and by the way, there are other solutions out there like Lean Data. ZoomInfo, Ringlead, for example, would be another one of those kinds of solutions where they do the routing. It's just Lean Data has focused on it a little bit longer, and I think ZoomInfo recently acquired Ringlead. So those are kind of the two options, but we see that kind of tech stack, and we'll help. We typically get the question of, well, how do we get the value out of the decisions we've already made? Very rarely are we saying, go pick Demandbase, go pick 6sense. In fact, we don't even want to be in that business. We would rather guide and say, hey, based on your use case, here's what we're seeing. So before the purchase, or more typically after the purchase, when they've made the decision, we're coming in and trying to then optimize to get to that unified funnel.
Yeah, I love it. I appreciate that. Thank you. If I could put you on the spot here, a lot of tech stack names have just been thrown out. What are your favorites?
Ooh, what are my favorites? You know, it's a great question. I went on a journey when I first started this business too many years ago, about 10 years ago, where I self-certified in the platforms, which I never thought as a former CMO I would invest time and energy in that. And what I've learned is of all the platforms that I've mentioned, the reason I like Salesforce as a CRM, and this is going to be kind of a cop-out answer, but in a way, their documentation is the best, their ability to scale is the best. And we're kind of latecomers as marketers trying to get systems that emulate the success that Salesforce has. And Salesforce is really a singular solution that you can bolt on a bunch of different apps and all sorts of capabilities. But they constantly blow me away in terms of the community that they've built, their level of technical support, their documentation. And I almost wish that the marketing automation and ABX platforms were as good as Salesforce. So, you know, you got a lot of companies at the periphery that are, I think, trying to get there, but they're just later to that game. So Salesforce has just got unbelievably scalable solution, even with the switch from Classic to Lightning and the move to Trailhead, which is their certification, newer certification process. It's just a very, very powerful platform. So I really love Salesforce as a CRM. Might be a little bit clunky for some, and it's kind of a pain for a lot of salespeople to use. And I get that. I've been an operator before. But there are ways to streamline that process so people don't have to spend as much time. Anyway, I'm really bullish on Salesforce.
No, I would actually agree with you. Salesforce is my favorite CRM. I've had some recent conversations with some others that are saying they're pivoting from Salesforce to HubSpot CRM. That initially they were all gung-ho about Salesforce, and now HubSpot's starting to win them over. So I need to do more research on that, because I've been gung-ho about Salesforce, and I'm starting to really see kind of that mindset change happening. And so I'm curious, right? Always wanting to learn and to be on that next trend for items. I got one more question for you today. And again, kind of putting you on the spot, so apologize. You can do a cop out if you need to. This is my Demand Gen Made Simple podcast, right? So I always like to have some sort of tips on how to simplify demand gen, or calling out something that's like overly complex for no reason. Do you have an opinion on anything in demand gen or even ABM that's made overly complex for no reason? And, talk to me about that and why.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question about, the complexity of leads or account-based. Usually we see a lot of companies, especially as they migrate to an account-based strategy, they always start with the account selection process. And as marketers, sometimes we're kind of on the outside looking in, where sales takes a lot of pride and here are my accounts and here's what I'm going after. Some of which may or may not be data driven. Some of it may be relationship driven. And the challenge with that model is, if marketing's not actively participating in that conversation, there can be two things that happen. One is marketing might get the gristle of the marketing qualified accounts, or the accounts to go focus on, like sales, like I give these over to marketing. And rather than having kind of an integrated approach, it's marketing's top of the funnel and good luck to do the conversion, and sales does everything else. And that dynamic is kind of shifted, where it's a little bit like a blend, almost like the ice cream that I had last night with chocolate and vanilla. It's blended together rather than stacked one on top of the other like a double scoop. It's now kind of mixed or blended. So marketers really want to participate in that conversation of account selection. How they can do that, for example, they can do their own research in their database in Salesforce, and or they can augment it with intent data or providers that have intent data. So of the platforms that I mentioned, Bombora is a common denominator of many of those platforms, using that intent data to kind of see which accounts are in market or not in market may be a valuable thing to do, at least coming up with a point of view. Bottom line is, you don't want to be silent in the account selection process as a marketer. You really want to be an active participant. I don't know if that's quite the tip you're looking for, but that's what I would suggest as it relates to both demand and account-based strategies.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. I'm not really looking for anything. I'm just looking for your perspective and your opinion, right? Your expertise. So that's, all the questions that I had for us today. And this conversation has been really, really fun. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you, joining me on this chat today.
Yeah, excellent. And thanks for having me again, Janelle, and appreciate it.